Hello again.
Hi, man.
Hey, what's going on? I showed you, I think, in one of the recent videos we did not too long ago, one of the things I got at the toy show was the Space Marine figure.
Yeah.
And that was the seed. Like, it always comes back, man. Son of a
You can't
bitch.
escape it.
And now I'm like thinking 40K again, and I'm like, maybe it's time to revisit it. Maybe you can find something new about it to like. The last time you ventured into it, you found something new. You found Kaya Biscayne. You liked that. Maybe it's time to
Love Kai
revisit.
Biscayne.
I do. Maybe it's time to revisit it. But I determined like I don't want a book. I'm tired of books. I
Let me
want
get my Tana
something.
Leaf tea.
Yeah. I don't want a book. I'm tired of books. I've read enough 40K Warhammer 40K books. I want something else. So I started like, well, there's no animation series or movies, so it's like video games is the only other thing. I started looking into video games, and this is not new news by any means, but Warhammer 40K Darktide is a new first-person shooter game coming out. I know you've heard about it. Everyone's heard about it at this point.
Yes.
If it wasn't for my like trying to keep myself away from 40K, I'm sure we would have talked to it by now. But I finally just decided, fuck it, let's talk 40K. Uh, so the game looks good. You mentioned, and I knew this, but you've actually played this. It's like the 40K version of Vermintide, which is Warhammer
Yeah.
Fantasy's game. So with you having a little bit of knowledge about actual like Vermintide, give us like a little intro what to expect with Darktide, but just with
All
the it
right.
being 40K.
So I honestly don't. I probably could learn a little bit of this if I looked it up, but this is just what I think it's going to be because I know it's by the same people who made Vermintide.
Yeah,
So they're going to be doing similar things,
yeah.
and it's going to be more similar to two than one. So we're not going to talk about one. The
Fair enough.
Vermintide 2, it was there like four races that were all class. So like the dwarf was like the explorer, the elf was the archer. You know, you had the human knight with the great sword. You had the like what was it called? And then the inquisitor guy, right? And they all had little subclasses that changed what their gear was, that changed what their weapons were, what their experience, like what they're were good at, their special ability. So I played the Inquisitor and I had the Zealot. This is a great example of it. Two completely different classes within the same class. So like
Okay.
the Inquisitor was a sword and a gun, had a top hat on. He had the ability to like brand a target or something. I forget exactly what he did. Because I never played him because I played him enough to unlock the Scout, which was the next one. And he was like a ranger, right? So he had more bullets. He was better, did more damage at range, all that kind of shit. And then the next guy was the Zealot, and he had a flail and shaved head and like would run around and just spin his flail and fuck people up. That was all one class, and it was like a bunch of different shit. You could
Good
get
amount of
different
variety.
weapons for them. It was pretty good variety. I
Yeah.
was surprised because one was a similar setup, but it didn't have as much variety.
It's
So
funny
now we're
you
going
should
into
mention.
Dark Tide.
It's
Oh, go
funny you
ahead.
should
Sorry.
mention that because uh, it looks like obviously there's going to be one race. It's humans, with the exception
Right.
of the Ogren.
He's
But
he's
he's
an acceptable
human,
mutant. He's
human
human.
mutant, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
he
all
counts.
human. But it looks like I don't know if there's going to be subclasses within classes, but it looks like there's a guardsman, an inquisitor, the
Yeah.
Ogren, and there's one other that's a female, and I don't really know what she is. Because maybe a
Yeah, I don't know.
commissar? That'd be weird to put a commissar in a game like this, because
I kind of want to look.
commissars should be paired up with. Well, hey, I'll tell you what. Let's show the trailer real quick while you're looking that up. Sound good?
Yeah,
All right,
good idea.
so let's take a look at
Let's
the
do that.
trailer, see what we're talking about here. Oh, there's Kevin Smith. Uh, so this video is courtesy of Xbox. It's on their YouTube channel. We'll probably get a copyright claim, but it shouldn't hurt us too much.
That's fine. We're not trying to make any money.
Nope.
Master of mankind, may thy light guide us in the darkness. Burn the heretic, kill the mutant, purge the unclean. Master of mankind, grant us strength.
Very cool looking. It's interesting because, like, so there have been 40K video games before, namely like the RTS games. There's been a couple iOS 40K strategy games. I remember there
Hey, man, Space Marine had Mark Strong as the voice of Captain Titus.
Yeah.
That made it a legitimate game. That was fucking Mark Strong for the people that don't know.
So I feel like a lot of comparisons are going to be made between that game and Darktide simply because there's nothing else in the same, in even a remotely similar vein as Darktide. Obviously,
well, probably more to Space Hulk Deathwing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Probably that one.
That was another first-person shooter. You're actually playing as a Terminator, Astartes.
Big flaws in that game. Super fun game. I have a lot of hours in that game, but they had flaws. A lot of flaws.
This looks almost comparable to like Doom.
Yeah, that's what I kind of felt. It looks like it's going to be fast-paced, mobile shooter.
Hordes
where you're going to be expected to melee if things get too close.
Because the trailer it made sure to showed you melee first of all. So the first little bit of first-person gameplay footage it showed you was all of them using their melee weapons. The Ogren has a big knife. I don't know if the guy is the Inquisitor or if the girl is the Inquisitor, but one guy.
The girl, I think, is the Zealot.
The Zealot.
Zealot who uses a big chainsword. I think she's a Zealot.
No, the girl has a hammer. A small.
Okay. I think she might be the Inquisitor then. One of them is the Zealot and one is the Inquisitor. Because that's the guess.
So the Ogren has for melee. The Ogren has a big combat knife. One of the other guys has a power sword, small like a Gladius power sword. The other guy just has a small chain sword, and then she has a normal human sized thunder hammer. So
she's probably the Inquisitor and has a demon hammer. That's what I would say.
So it made a point to show you that melee is going to be a part of this game because they first showed you melee, then it cut to a little scene where it's like a cutscene. They're all in a room and they're getting surrounded by all sides on enemies with guns. And that's when you see them all pull out their individual like range weapons. And we saw two people had what looked like a guardsman laser rifle. The Ogren has the big one shot like impact grenade launcher, and then I can't remember what the other one had. One of them has it looks like
one has a flamethrower. A flamer. One has a flamer.
They might have more than one range weapon, or either that.
I'm sure they do.
You can maybe swap shit out as you move through the game. But just looking at the first-person shooting gameplay, it was not Call of Duty style, like you're pretty much always looking through the reticule. It was a lot of shooting from the hip, which is more Doom-ish. So, but just the gameplay, I could not help but have slight Call of Duty vibes from it. But it was so cool to see it. It's like with the 40K environment and atmosphere and aesthetic, like to see a laser rifle up close being like it was just kind of like there was a new element of like bringing it to real life that we'd never seen before. Me and you have read a ton of 40K books, so we're familiar with the lore. But to actually see it in action and then to also see it first person, because that Space Marine game that came out, it was third person first of all, and then it still had that kind of toonish Warhammer 40K look to it. This looks real. This looks like high end graphics, realistic. And speaking of
also Space Marine was orcs, and this This is like the worst chaos to come against, the
That's-
Nurgle chaos.
I wanted to touch on that because we saw in the trailer when they all got surrounded in that room, it was like a chaos cult or army, and which is interesting. I'm not unhappy about it, but you'd think for a game like, or maybe you can tell me you've played Vermintide. I would always assume for a game like Vermintide, I thought they would have gone like more like the Space Hulk Deathwing route and done Tyranids to kind of mimic what Vermintide is.
The thing that I think it's a good choice with Chaos. It's a good choice because they're in a hive city, and that's lore accurate. Although so is Tyranids. It could have been Gene Stealers. That would have been totally real. But I think they're just. I don't think they made a. I don't think they were saying that it would be wrong to do that. It's just that Space Hulk did it, and so they didn't want to make the players immediately fight Tyranids again.
Well, also,
Tyranids are also specific to how they attack you.
Yeah,
it's really fucking annoying. Yeah, charge at you, claw at you, swarm you.
Are there any Tyranids? I've read some books where they fought Tyranids, but it's like most of them don't have ranged weaponry.
They do. Like think of them like a traditional army, but if the way that they think is that because their units are expendable, they're going to do the literal most effective way to kill you. So if it's a hallway, right, they're not going to bring any ranged weapons because it makes no sense to them. They're just going to swarm you with melee fighters until they overwhelm your firepower and kill you. Because that works better than trying to range fight them.
Just telling go.
Yeah, go and they're going to recover their biomatter. So if they can kill you all, they're going to get all of it back.
Yeah.
So they're not worried about that. But if it's an open battlefield, it's a totally different story. They have bio cannons that are like plasma cannons. They have they shoot bone shards. Some of them have arms that grow into like sniper rifles or machine guns or shotguns. Yeah. They literally adapt to be anything that's required.
So, and that's another thing I thought was like they probably went with Chaos because Chaos can give you more of a shooting. You know?
That was what I thought.
You're in a firefight
it introduces
with
Space Marines.
Yeah.
They could bring Chaos Space Marines as enemies, and those would be really threatening. Oh, man.
Holy shit. Like, and Astartes is not one of the class. Like, they didn't give you... can you... Like, it's Chaos. It's Chaos. So can you imagine if they had given you, like, a Grey Knight as one of the... Like... Why would you play anything else?
You wouldn't need anybody else.
Yeah.
You would just do solo missions as the Grey Knight, because, like, what are some fucking cultists going to do? They're not even going to get through your wards as you slice them into 20 pieces.
The only fun battle is the final boss, who's a demon prince, and even then it's just kind of like...
He already knows he's dead when you walk in. He's like, fuck, couldn't it have been anything else? And you're like, no, for the Emperor.
I am the tip of his spear.
I am the edge of his blade.
Yeah.
The armor about his they're awesome. They're so fucking
This game looks great, and I'm gonna get it. It is I'm gonna call it a Microsoft exclusive because it is gonna be available on PC. But I saw at the end there when it was like coming 2021, and it listed all the platforms. Apple. Like if you have a Mac, I don't think you're gonna be able to play this. So
probably shouldn't expect to play many games if you have a Mac.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Get a PC.
Yeah. So it looks like it's gonna be PC and Xbox only. I mean. With you getting it as well, and I can imagine we'll talk Pat into getting it. It's going to be a PC buy for me, and plus I'm not getting the next gen Xbox console anyway, so No. But the game looks great, and that's kind of like. I mean, do you agree? What do you want to say about how the game looks? Yeah,
it looks amazing. First of all, it looks terrifying because like. The 40K universe is easily the scariest concept universe I've ever heard of. It's the Alien universe. It's Halo. It's somehow also some of their weapons are... Think about this. Just this one thing. I don't think people think about this one thing enough. We fight each other with swords and knives to this day in certain circumstances. Can you imagine if the mainstay melee weapon was a fucking handheld chainsaw?
Yeah.
That's normal for them. They fight each other with that shit.
Can you
imagine getting hit with a chainsaw sword?
Yeah.
Agonizing.
The only thing that's ever come close is be like Gears of War to kind of do that.
Yeah, and they put it on their gun. You know, this is just like a suicide charge trying to fucking make it hurt. That's one of the reasons that there's no freaking reason that they shouldn't have standard issue power swords. There literally isn't. They just don't. They're like, here's a chainsaw, easier to make. That's it.
Yep.
There you go. Cheaper, easier.
And it's like
it's
edgy.
He gives it a good rep.
Like
it's
edgy, and it's a staple of the 40K universe. So they hand that shit out.
chainswords.
Yeah.
I want one. I just think it would feel really bad hitting anyone with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Holy shit.
I'd be like, oh shit, I'm so fucking sorry. I thought this would be a lot faster than this. All right, it's almost over. All right, that's it. Shit. Versus the guy with the power sword is like,
yeah.
And he's like, man, that looks rough. And you're like, yeah, it sucks.
I mean,
cleaning the meat out of the teeth.
Do you watch that fan animation I sent you? The other day?
Yeah, I did.
You saw that one Space Marine, the Ultramarine with the power sword. He whirled around and cleaved that traitor, and you saw it took both arms off, and then you saw the line in the arm, like it just
the heat mark in his armor
separated the matter with the power, and it went right. That was
so
gnarly.
Cool.
Dude, was that not awesome? Like that he animated them, because like they always look so big and clunky, and even in that Space Marine game on the 360 and stuff, you still were kind of big and clunky. In that fan animation, that was the shit. Those guys were moving like that arm, like they're supposed to. That armor's not cumbersome to them at all.
No game has ever, in any way close to the book description, gotten Space Marine movement right. No game. They can't make a Space Wolf game, because if they did, they would have to really think about how those guys move. The Space Wolves are fucking ridiculous. Read the first Ragnar book. Where it explains him in combat, hiding behind a wall, out of pistol ammo. All he's got is I think he has a sword. I think he even had Frostclaw at that point, his power sword.
Yeah.
Because it was the future one. And he pops a grenade out of the grenade dispenser, whips around a corner, runs so fast at the guardsmen that they don't have time to register that he started moving, throws a grenade into the bunker, hops the wall, and cuts two of them in half. He did that so fast that the guardsmen couldn't react. The Space Marine game had him moving like, no, they wouldn't do that because A, it's inefficient.
Yeah.
That's anti-Ultramarines in every way. They would be moving at pretty much dead sprint all the time because they don't get tired, because it doesn't burn. They don't produce lactic acid. It doesn't build up in their muscles. They have gyro muscles surrounding their actual muscles. Their armor absorbs all force impact of any variety. They can jump from the top of the Empire State Building to the ground and be like, all right, full sprint. Nothing would affect them. And the games act like that's not true. They're like, no, they have to move slow because we didn't put enough content for them to move at the speed that a Space Marine would move.
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
I'm tempted to show that fan animation in this video. I don't know if I should.
Oh, you're frozen.
Am I back? Uh-oh. Got some problems. All right, sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
Things happen.
So that fan animation, I kind of want to show it in this video. I just don't know if that's a good idea. I know I could.
Maybe we can put a link we'll put a link in the
could we do both?
Description. Sure.
Yeah. Because that kind of gets into another topic that's kind of gets into another topic that I want to talk about. Like, it's still 40K related, but I guess I'll just go ahead and cue it up right here.
Bro, can you post it in Discord?
The video? It's called Death of Hope. If you just YouTube search Death of Hope. Yeah. So the 40K books that we've read, they're good for what they are. They are what they're meant to be, and we've enjoyed quite a few of them. Most 40K games, with the exception of like Dawn of War 3, are decent games. They all have their flaws and areas they could be better, but they're decent games. And it has a strong like cult niche following of like nerds and fans. What I want to talk about, what is it though that keeps 40K from really having its heyday and becoming mainstream? And we'll get into that, but let's just another point to that is I didn't know that Space Marine mini series that came out, the Star Tease one on YouTube that came out, that got me looking around on YouTube, and that one was a big deal, got a lot of hype. But turns out there are a lot of fans out there doing their own 40K animation, and a lot of it is really good. Yeah. I don't know why this isn't gaining more traction, but let's show this one real quick, and just so people can see what we're talking about. Because is it perfect? Like, is it like top-notch Disney CGI animation? Like, no, but it's pretty good. You know, so.
I thought it was. It just demonstrates really well how these guys fight, how mobile they are. How that armor is not a restriction.
I won't play the audio at the very least, but I'll show the video. So this is from this guy, what's his name? Mark Lewis Spark. He animated this himself, just done by him. And this is like a trailer for a Horus Heresy short film that he's working on called Death of Hope. I actually think the first part of this is out there, so anybody that likes this, go to his channel and check this out. The fact that he's doing all this himself, I just want to show the Space Marine combat. So here we go. This is on, it says the title's called War on Sathis. So this is some of the warfare and battle going on. People running in the streets from the Chaos Marines, which have just arrived, and they're just walking through the streets of this Imperial world, just mowing people down. And then the it must be an Ultramar, because the Ultramarines show up to combat them.
This is probably during that time in the Horus Heresy, when Lorgar and Angron attacked all of the Ultramar.
This scene right here, the woman's running with her baby, the Chaos Marines are chasing her, and then in retaliation, the Ultramarine Terminators are walking towards them. The one of them, your fight is with me, traitor. Like, I'm not playing the audio, but that's what he says. Here we go. Here's the fast pace. This is realistic. Look at how he's just sprinting. The armor is big and bulky, but it doesn't hold the way they're swinging their weapons, everything. This is how it should be. Cleaves that guy, takes him down. How fast they spin and they punch and they fight. The way he whips that sword around. This is top notch. Boom.
Well, I was watching the wrong video.
Take that guy out. Oh, this Ultramarine's going down. Oh, it's sad.
Oh, this is Horus Heresy stuff.
Yeah, it's a Horus Heresy
fan film. Yeah. This is a really interesting part of the Horus Heresy that doesn't get discussed as much as when the Word Bearers, I guess, and the World Eaters invaded Ultramar. And, spoiler alert, they lost. The Ultramarines are no bitch. You might win one world, but they're going to come get your ass. And
everyone talks shit on the Ultramarines for being basic, but I love the Ultramarines, and I will stand that.
I love the Ultramarines.
I'll stand by that.
Bro, here, let's see here.
Crush. I'm watching the whole thing. We'll get there.
At 107 in the video is a World Eater right there. In his blue and white power armor still. So this is even before they adopted the red of Khorne. So Angron isn't a demon prince yet. Well, there's the Word Bearers, and they're red because they real quick switched from that silver.
More Ultramarine Terminators.
Yeah, Ultramarine just fucked up that World Eater. He fucked him up, smashed him into the ground with a power hammer.
Death of Hope, unofficial Warhammer Horus Heresy short. Check this guy out. Like I said, his name is Mark Lewis Spark. Yeah.
That Terminator armor that they're wearing is called Cataphracti pattern Terminator armor. That shit is still used by a couple of Space Marines. And when I say that makes Terminator armor of the future look like bitch armor, I'm not joking. That armor was entirely designed to stand in a line in front of your Space Marines and just advance forward. Yeah. You could eat missiles, plasma blasts, any amount of laser cannon fire. Bolters, forget about it. Yeah. You need to get in there with a power axe and some power armor
and start hacking it away. Shit. Yeah.
And even then,
maybe luck. A meltagun. Maybe a
meltagun would do it if you're close enough. Yeah. Which is really tough to get close to one of those guys. Abaddon the Despoiler wears Cataphracti power Terminator armor. That's been super modified by Chaos. But before that, he got in a fight with Garvio
Loken.
The Luna Wolf guy. Garvio Loken. He got in a fight with him, and Garvio is no bitch. He's a really good fighter. He will fuck you up. But Abaddon had Cataphracti Terminator armor. There's no chance. He fucked him up so bad.
Didn't kill him.
So yeah, it's really good. It didn't kill him, no. Yeah. But that armor is ridiculous. So if you were in a battle and you saw 6 of those guys walking, you're good now. Stand behind those guys, and there's a really, really high chance that you're going to live.
So with all this great fan animation, with it having the fan base is not huge in the same way that Marvel or Star Wars is huge. It's not super mainstream, but with the fan base, however large it is, it's strong. We've got dedicated fans making this great animation. The games are overall pretty good, and the books are really good. What is it? You give your opinion, I'll give my opinion. What is it that's keeping Warhammer 40? What is it why hasn't it reached its heyday? Why hasn't it bridge the gap into the mainstream yet? What's holding it back?
I think a big thing holding it back is that they don't have like any shows, any movies to speak of that are good.
But why is that?
Games Workshop likes to shoot itself in the foot any chance it gets. If you give Games Workshop a gun and with 2 bullets in it, they'll shoot themselves in the foot and they'll go, fuck, they really hurt. And they'll shoot themselves in the other foot. Like they don't know what to do with this, but they know that their miniatures make a shitload of money. Yeah. Oh fuck, that was Argel Tall. Literally, that possessed Marine is like the possessed Marine. He I know way too much about 40K. We're gonna go through a real quick short thing. The unit of Space Marines that he's in are called the Galvorbeck, which means the blessed in the language of Lorgar's homeworld. They literally believe that being possessed by a demon is a blessing. And he was one of the first members. Literally, he was the first member of the Galvorbeck. He was possessed by a demon, and he works in harmony with it, and he can just transform into it at will. And
I guess
I'm going to say this. If you're going to be a Chaos Marine, don't be a little bitch about it.
You
got to go Galvorbeck.
You got to cannonball. You don't tiptoe into that pool. You cannonball into that pool.
You cannonball into that shit. You let a demon possess you, and you go full tilt. Because I'll tell you this, man, the Galvorbeck are enough. They are going to make every Space Marine on the battlefield go, God fucking damn it. Are you shitting me? That is all I have to fight? He's a Space Marine possessed by a demon. So all of the physiology of a Space Marine with the regeneration and the bulletproof armor, coupled with the literal immunity to death that demons have, and the fact that he could just get shot like 1,000 times and he'd be like, ha 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 ha, and cut your head off and then eat it. Like there's nothing you can do. They're so hard to kill. And they live forever. If he dies, he just goes back to the warp, and he's not bound to that 10,000 year bullshit. He just leave. He just can fucking leave, man. Yeah. So like, they're crazy. Again, look him up if you're interested. Galvorbeck, and then I think Argel Tall is his name, which he's insane. He went with Lorgar on the pilgrimage, which is what it's called, where he went to the Eye of Terror. It's what it was called even then, Eye of Terror. And he goes there, because that sounds smart, and he beseeches the Chaos Gods, who are like, yeah, you want to join us? Here's how you do it. And he tells them exactly how to do it. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And he does it, and he brings that guy with him, who was part of this like unit. I forget what they were called. They were like the Solar Warriors or something. They were the most devoted to Lorgar. And like, there were like 20 of them went in, and only Argel Tall and Lorgar came back, and he was like possessed by a demon and like a god. And Jesus. And he's the only one that came back. And so, they went on a thing of possessing a bunch of them.
This is, so, you mentioned that, like, Games Workshop tends to kind of fuck it over sometimes. I can see that. My take on it, when we talk about, like, what's keeping it from really going mainstream, is just the very nature of 40K in general. Like, you just described some in-depth lore. Like, there is a story here, right? And it is a long story full of a lot of rich detail, great world building. It has a long history and amount of lore into it in and of itself. But its quantity, once you start reading, like, learning 40K lore, and you read a lot of the books, you start to realize, like, this is quantity, not necessarily quality. Because 40K has been around since the 80s?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mid 80s, late 80s.
There's still no arc to it. There's no real narrative. You know, it's their tagline is, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. And that makes sense, because it stems from, originally it was a tabletop war game. And that's just what it was meant to be. You know, people fighting battles on a tabletop game. They fleshed out a lot of backstory and lore to it, and really solidified the mythos. But we're not building to anything. Some people say we are, and I did some research in preparation to talk about this with you, about what's the current events in 40K. And it seems like just within maybe like the last 4 or 5 years, they've started to say, like, let's try to give it a little bit of an arc. Let's spice it up a little bit. Let's take it other than it just being war, like just different battles being fought on different planets, trying to maintain this empire. Let's actually try to build to some kind of climax, some kind of real event, something. But they are doing it at a snail's pace. And I think that ends up kind of biting them in the ass a lot, is the fact that what are we working towards here in the story?
Yeah.
Like what's the climax? What is this? What's the resolution that we're trying to build towards? And there really isn't one. Like I guess some people would say like, oh, the final defeat of chaos and peace reigning throughout the galaxy, or the return of the Emperor, or whatever, or who. But that's the thing. It's all just speculation. Who knows? There really is no overarching narrative to it. And I think that's what kind of prevents it from, like, how are you going to do a TV show or a movie series that, like, it's like, well, I mean, you look at the Marvel movies, those don't have a clear ending in sight, but they have arcs to them. The Thanos Infinity arc was an arc, and it had a conclusion and a resolution. I think you could maybe do a Horus Heresy series, but once
I would love that. That's the most complete arc out there.
But once you get past that, the Horus Heresy ends, then you just enter this 10,000 year span of time in the lore where shit's just happening, random battles are being fought, planets rebel, chaos invades, Tyranids invade, and it's just the plot is this: fight the bad guys, try to stay alive. That's the plot, and it's like, it makes a great game.
And then who are the bad guys again?
Oh yeah, and then there's that as well, because like, and that's another thing. It does not have a definitive protagonist or protagonist faction. And it did, and that's, like you said, that's why the Horus Heresy could possibly work, because in that sense,
right, because they actually were the good guys.
There's a protagonist faction that you're meant to root for. In overall 40K, post Horus Heresy, the Imperium of Man is a pale shadow of what it once was. It's no longer the good guys. The humans are no longer the good guys. They're just like every other faction in the galaxy, trying to do what's best for them, trying to survive, trying to maintain their empire, just like every other faction, Yep. And they're not definitively the good guys. In order to have a real narrative, you need a real protagonist, like that the audience is like rooting for. This doesn't really have one, but that they could change that. They could. And they kind of
it would pretty much have to be an Ultramarine too.
Well, and that's where
because they're the only ones that aren't out of their minds.
Where are we right now with 40K lore, current events? What's happening?
Well, Gilly Man, Girly Man is back.
And he
survived
the Imperium.
And he's the Emperor right now because
the Imperial.
Who was going to stop him?
Yeah,
whatever. We know who he is. And
for those of you who don't know, this guy we're talking about, the Emperor of Mankind, which is like the human factions, like deity, their god, their leader. He had 20 genetically engineered like super demigod children. This guy we're talking about is one of those 20. All of them at this point in time are dead, missing, or they've turned to chaos and they've turned evil and become traitors. Guilliman, this guy we're talking about, he was inflicted with a mortal wound about 1,000 years ago, or maybe 4. I don't remember when it was. He was
some long ass time ago.
They put him in stasis to keep him from actually dying, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, in the lore, just to sum it up, they did some shit and they brought him out of stasis and restored him. And now, so an actual demigod son of the Emperor is alive, walking, talking, and in charge of the Imperium of Man. When I heard,
and the best one, I would argue, is the one in charge.
Arguably, yeah.
To be in charge, yeah.
As much as some people hate the Ultramarines and think there's some like just basic bullshit, like lore-wise, Guilliman was probably the one to be. So it's like, when they did that, I know how I felt. Let's see if you felt the same way. Did you feel like, this is it? They're finally applying a narrative. The humans are gonna be the protagonists again. We're gonna get back to the good Imperium before this Imperial cult bullshit started, and they got like overzealous, religious and shit. Like, Rabaul Guilliman, he's a true son of the Emperor, and he's gonna come back. He's gonna restore the Imperium to its former glory, and we're gonna actually have a true good guy protagonist that we're meant to root for. That's what I thought. Did you feel the same way, or?
I did, and I did for a really long time, and I thought that, even the Belisarius Call thing was just going to be a side note, that he had to use the Mechanicus so that he could restore the Emperor, or restore the Empire, or the Imperium, not the Emperor. And they just didn't do shit with him. Yeah, they had him launch a crusade, the Indomitus Crusade.
Yeah.
Which, as far as I can tell,
the 13th Black Crusade is still happening. Like, you think Guilliman would have? Yeah.
It was the Great Rift that is when I really thought things were going to start, because how can you ignore it? So suddenly Cadia is destroyed, and not just Cadia, but all of the black prisms that were holding it, or the black I forget what they're called. They were created by the
Pylons.
Necrons. Pylons. They were created by the Necrons, and they keep the warp powers of the Eye of Terror closed to a degree. They were unable to fully close it, but they were able to keep it really tiny compared to what it actually is.
Yeah.
And then the 13th Black Crusade just wiped them out, and the actual size of the Eye of Terror, and now called the Great Rift, is there, and it literally splits the galaxy in half.
Yeah.
There's the universe. But anyway, it splits the whole fucking thing in half, and they cannot reach half of the other star systems. So Guilliman launches the Indomitus Crusade, similar to how the Great Crusade functioned, literally exactly the purpose of the Great Crusade.
Yeah.
And he does the same thing, 2.0, but better than his dad, which is why I'm sitting here calling him the Emperor, because the Emperor himself fucking blows at his job. And his son that he made is god tier at it. Yeah. Like, his son did what his dad tried to do in like half the time, way less than half the time.
Well, a lot of work the road was paved. The road was
paved, but he didn't have good technology this time. Yeah. This time, remember when the Emperor did it? He had all the technology you could ever ask for. All the standard template constructs were already in his possession. He didn't need to go figure out how to make more ships. The Mechanicus had the standard template, and they could just fucking make them. And he's like, here's 50 more ships, send them out. Yeah. But like, Guilliman has the ships he has, and the ships that he can have scrounged together from other ships. And he's like, I'm going to do another Great Crusade with none of the resources that my dad had, and some psycho zealots who are just going to listen to me because they think I'm a demigod. Like,
so you might have looked into this more than I have recently, because like I said, like for the past like year and a half, I've pretty much pushed 40K away for the reasons I just said. It's like, this isn't going anywhere. There's no real narrative. Guilliman's been back in lore time, in the 40K universe, in the time in that universe. He's been back now for 100 years.
Yeah, so he's been back for a long time.
What is his opinion on this Imperium that he has awoken to? Like, is he kind of like, because
I honestly don't know.
I tried reading the one book about it's 100 years after he comes back. It's the Indomitus Crusade, like you said. He was meeting with some people of like the Imperial cult, and he had a discussion with one dude because he's not happy about it. They make that very clear when he first wakes up out of stasis and like gets back.
There's a religion in his galaxy that he spent literally hundreds of years expunging, and because he exists in some way to them, it's a confirmation of their religious beliefs. Which, can you imagine a worse thing to a pure atheist who, in his brain, there are no gods. He is just a guy. He's bigger and smarter and stronger than them, but he's a human.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're a demigod. And no matter what he says to them, in secret, they still worship him as a demigod. Well, he can't just like kill him. They all think it.
He's been out of commission for. I think he was only around for another 1,000 years after the Horus Heresy ended. I think he has been in stasis, if I remember correctly. It was 9,000 years. So he's coming out, and like you said, like him and his dad, the Emperor, their crusade was to eradicate bullshit, any not just religion, any and all bullshit that was holding back the human race, and they did a damn good job.
Any lies? It was the imperial truth.
Yeah,
and they were expunging the lies that were destroying humanity.
Yeah.
Which now he is surrounded by.
Yeah, he wakes up after but here's the thing, not only is he surrounded by it, it's 9,000 years in progress. That's not something, to say that's not something you can overturn overnight is an understatement. Like, this dude's got to feel trapped. Like there's no fucking hope. Like, I don't know why I even woke up. Like, but he
probably feels bad. All his brothers are gone, all of them.
Maybe he already has. Maybe this lore is out there and we just don't know. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. Do you think he's going to go the route and just be like, it's too far gone, we have to embrace the Imperial cult? I would hate it if he does that.
It's just not in his. No, you know how the Ultramarines
and
are.
Who's going to make him? You know what I mean? Like,
you know that the Ultramarines are one of the few that don't. I'm pretty sure they don't say praise the Emperor. They say like glory to the Emperor, things like that. They don't worship him as a god, but they revere him as the Emperor.
People to.
No, but I'm pretty sure that they're one of the few, and that means that most of their success, not all, because successor chapters are a whole other beast, but most of them are the same way. They're codex compliant, and they don't worship the Emperor as a god.
Oh, no, you're back. Yeah, you're right. You're
So
100%
they're
right.
very careful about how they address the Emperor as a whole, as an entire organization. So
Yeah.
Rabout, who is the heart and soul of the Ultramarines, all of their beliefs come from him. It's just not in him to
Yeah.
lay down
Embrace
and be
it.
like, this is how it is. No, he's going to do everything in his power to bring back the Imperial truth. That's what I think.
I
He
hope
might not
so.
succeed though. He's going to
And
need more Primarchs.
and
They're going to
some
have to bring Lionel Johnson out.
something else I've learned. I don't know to the extent at which this goes, but due to the events of so right now, currently, you have the Great Rift and the Chaos Incursion. Abaddon's leading it, and then
Yeah,
also I think there's some Necron shit going on.
there is. The Necrons are awakening.
I think there's a Hive fleet, and I think
So
and then also there is a Wog, a pretty
the
nasty
biggest one
Wog,
ever,
Lord
isn't it?
Gazkul.
Yeah, it's the biggest one ever. It's bigger than the one that
Yeah.
attacked
So
that the Emperor cleansed. I'm pretty sure.
there's a good portion of Astartes and Imperium military forces that are they can't even participate in the 13th Black Crusade and help
No.
fight because they're busy staving off this fucking orc incursion. So shit's happening. It looks like they're ramping up to actually give it a narrative. And what I was going to get into is in this event, this happening, the Imperium, and I like this. I know it goes against most of the lore that we've gotten, but I like this. They are
Oh shit!
compromising. What's up?
I lost you.
Everything? Can you hear me? Technical difficulties today, man. Oh well. Thank God for
It
the
is what
pause
it is.
function. So what I was saying was, it looks like, and I'm happy about this, it looks like the Imperium, due to all this shit going on, and they don't have the manpower to control, they are compromising and allying and working with other races, particularly the Tau. I was looking up current events online, and I read somewhere someone was saying like the Tau and the Imperium are working. They understand that it's like we don't always get along and like each other, but we have common enemies here. They're working to hold back a good portion of the 13th Black Crusade. Just the Tau are, but it was like they can't possibly hold. Like they're buying time, but
The
they cannot
Tower.
hold.
For everybody that's pretty new to 40K, I'm going to explain real quick who the Tau are. The Tau are the youngest race in the universe. They're brand spanking new, and they're comprised of they're like a bunch of different races: the Kroot, the Tau themselves, and humans,
Think
and
of them
then
like
any
the
other
Covenant
species they
from
find.
Halo.
Yeah, but nicer.
Yeah.
Way nicer.
Oh, yeah.
But also more sinister because they on the surface they seem like the nice guys, and you think these are the good guys of the universe. They have a caste called the Ethereals, and the Ethereals are in charge of everything. And there are a lot of theories about what the square on the head means. I don't know if there's ever been a definitive explanation, but my favorite one is that it releases a mind control pheromone that all the Tau are just, that square is designed to absorb that pheromone. And they just can't say no. They can't object to this greater good, which is the Tau's overarching philosophy. Everything they do is towards the greater good. The thing where it comes into conflict is that they do tend to do pretty good things, and that humans that get taken by the Tau or join the Tau tend to have really good lives in comparison to how like a normal Imperial citizen would live.
But
Think about how you live right now with like gardens and a house and a job. That's how you would live with the Tau. They would give you a garden and like they would be really nice to you, and there'd be a grocery store. But there's that sinister undertone of the Imperials.
Yeah, and also in the universe that it's in, you mentioned them being like the youngest race. They are impressive for how technologically advanced they are with how young they are. But I just referenced with them trying to hold back some of the Black Crusade, they're not on par with, especially not with
the
Chaos.
thing that holds them back is they have no presence in the warp. None.
None.
They don't exist in the warp, so they can't travel into the warp because they don't have psychers to become navigators.
Yeah.
They can't use the warp to travel through it. They would just die.
Yeah.
And it's happened before. A Tau, they tried. They went through the warp, and then like 100 years later, their ship popped out somewhere in the universe, and everybody on side was either batshit insane or dead. And that's just, if you've ever seen the movie Event Horizon, that's what happened to the Tau. So they can't do it. So they do this thing called skimming, which makes them way slower than the rest of the races at traveling between planets. Or they'll jump to this secondary universe, which is essentially the webway, and then hop back out, and then do it again.
Yeah.
And it jumps them distances. but it's way, way, way slower than the Imperium and the Chaos dudes and the orcs for that matter. Because the orcs, here's the thing about the orcs that makes them scary. They go into the warp, and the demons are like, oh shit, you guys aren't humans. And they're like, what's this? And they're like, oi! And like 60 orcs come around with like scrap clubs, and they're like, what, we fighting? And then this demon's like, no. And the orcs just come and beat the piss out of that demon. And they just smash his ass. And like a bloodthirster of Khorne like appears, and he's like, I will kill you. And then he's dead because the orcs launched an experimental rocket at him designed to kill greater demons. Like they're bonkers. They have no Geller fuel because they're like, fuck it, let's fight.
Yeah.
They're like, let's fucking do it. So everybody's different in the way they travel through the warp is what I'm saying. But the Tower are the only ones that can't go through the warp.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem for them.
I have no information leading me to believe that the Imperium is allying with any others, like the Eldar, or the only other one would be the Eldar. That's the only other option.
The thing is the Eldar would never ally with us, which is their greatest downfall. Yeah. They refer to us as Monkey, Monkeigh, but monkeys. Yeah, they think we're monkeys because when they came here the first time, we literally were cavemen and we looked like monkeys.
Yeah.
But look, they are too proud to ever ask for our help.
Even though they fucked the universe up, like
they rammed their Eldar dicks literally through the universe and created a god. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna
an evil god." Let's clarify.
Was like, "I'm going to eat you all."
Yeah,
and that's his entire purpose.
And the birth of that god is what initially broke the barrier between the warp and real space, creating the Eye of Terror. And also, let's touch on the fact that this was before the Imperium of Man existed, before the Emperor existed. The human race was very different, and we were honestly in a lot of ways, we were a lot better. We were colonizing the galaxy, and we had established other planets and civilizations on those planets. Yep. But when that event happened, when the Eldar, through their decadency and their debauchery, and when they gave birth to Slaanesh, the newest of the Chaos Gods, and it created the break in real space and the warp, that broke that current human civilization, intergalactic civilization. We lost the human race. Terra, which is Earth, lost contact with all of its colonies.
Everything.
The Emperor had to go re-bring them back into the fold, and by that time a lot of them were greatly different and they weren't really too cool with it, and so some
one had established its own Imperium, literally exactly believing that they were the Imperium,
exactly the same except wrong,
and they tried, just to the credit of the real Imperium, they really tried. They really tried. They sent a space marine on his own to go there and just be like, look, we're not here to hurt you. We just got some facts for you.
Yeah.
And the guy cut his head off. Yeah. So they earned their death, all right? Let's just put it there. They earned it. They did it to themselves.
Yeah. So.
But that stuff. That's what the Great Rift did.
Fucking Eldar.
Also, there are 4 Chaos Gods, if you don't know. I'll give you their names and you can look them up if you want. It's Nurgle, Khorne, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. Yeah. They're all different. They all control some different aspect of human debauchery, of chaos. Yeah. Slaanesh is pleasure, pain, drugs, overindulgence. Like if you know Dionysus
partying
from Roman mythology or from Greek mythology.
The dark aspect of that, like partying doing a little too much crystal meth is what Slaanesh is.
Giving a person acid and then putting them in a field with tigers, that kind of shit. Oh my god, these tiger men are attacking me.
Being a sex addict to the point where you'll just knowingly fuck someone with AIDS. That's what Slaanesh is.
Remember in the movie Seven when the guy made the dude have sex with a prostitute with the knife prosthesis on his dick? Well, now you know about it. That's
some Slaanesh shit.
That's some Slaanesh shit. They would do that, but they wouldn't die. They would enjoy it.
Nurgle is pestilence, despair.
His is complicated. He's that, but he's also life and death. So he enjoys people being alive. He also likes them dead, but he wants you to be alive as well. Of the Chaos Gods, I can't believe I'm saying this. Of the Chaos Gods, Nurgle would be the best one to serve because you would be horribly disgusting, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
Or care. You would be immune to pain, and you'd be happy all the time. All the time. And you would genuinely believe that giving people the same circumstances that you're in is better for them.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's not. But
Yeah.
they,
You believe
they
it.
think that. You believe it.
Khorne
They're the
is
nicest of the chaos gods.
Tzeentch is like the god of sorcery and secrets, and he
Lies, deception, planning.
Metaphorically, it's like the aspect of human nature where like we kind of overreach ourselves. Like it's like some questions are better left unanswered.
Yeah.
He's kind of that is what the way I interpret Tzeentch.
Do you guys know that meme where it's the church and there's a guy sitting there with a gun to his head, and then behind him is a gun to his head, and then up in the balcony is a guy with a sniper rifle at that guy? Imagine that Tzeentch's name is on every single one of their heads.
Yeah.
That's Tzeentch.
Yeah.
He's got a plan, and then his plan involves fucking that plan over, but that plan involves killing the guy who planned that one so that he could kill the guy who planned to kill the guy who planned that one to stop that first one. That's Tzeentch.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know why he's doing it. Only he knows. But
then,
he's doing it.
And then you've got Khorne, which is just murder, rage, blood for the blood. He's the blood god, the god of murder. So murder, rage.
He
blood.
is also, I like to throw this one in, honorable combat. Because if you just go butcher kids and offer them skulls to him, let me tell you what Khorne will do to you. He will turn you into a chaos spawn so fast that you'll be like, whoa, was I ever a living chaos marine? No, you weren't. If you offer him a child skull, he's never done this. He'll step down off his throne and step on you himself. Like, that is the shit that pisses him off the most.
Yeah.
If they can't actually fight you, you're a little bitch to Khorne, and he wants to prove that to you by demonstrating the thing you just did to you.
And he
hates it.
That's crazy in and of itself, because they're literally like Khorne is an enemy of the Imperium, and the Imperium of Man and the
But he's
Emperor,
for the kids.
but well, it's the fact that like their whole goal is like the Imperium's like, we have to defeat the powers of chaos. But you do it through combat and violence and murder, which only fuels this one god. So it's weird. And I think one of my favorite parts in 40K like lore and in books I've read is so Caiaphas Cain is a commissar. I'm not going to go into what that is, but he's just a normal human. He doesn't have genetic enhancements or power armor or anything like that. He's a normal human, carries a chained sword and a laser pistol. This dude had to toe-to-toe duel a Coronate Berserker Marine, and he held his own for a minute, and I stand by this statement. I tell it to all my buddies. I'm like, if it had been any other kind of Chaos Marine that, like, actually, used some finesse and, like, skill, Caiaphas Cain would have been fucking dead. But since it was a Berserker that just came in there wailing with a chain axe, Caiaphas was able to kind of, like, maneuver him, and at one point he even parried his chain axe back down into the Space Marines, the Chaos Marine's own foot. So I was like, it's cool to hear about the normal dude fighting the Space Marine and actually holding his own, and then his helper shot the dude with a melta-gun.
Right.
That
was the end. And God bless that guy.
Yeah,
that
for real. Like,
bastard.
Caiaphas thought he was dead. Like, Caiaphas was like, this is how I die. This is the end. Like,
I'm gonna try to live as long as I can, though.
But fuck those dudes. But yeah, if it had been any other type of Chaos Marine, Caiaphas, that would have been the end of Caiaphas Cain's story.
If it had been a Slaanesh Marine, he would have been dead in minutes, because their whole point is that if they get parried in one way, they're never getting parried that way again, ever. Yeah. Because it's perfection. If you get parried, they're never going to do that the same way. Yeah. They're going to go, okay, you're going to parry that? I'm not going to do that again. Yeah. So you literally can't learn how to fight them, because they're better at it than you are, and they're doing the same thing. Yeah. So,
or a Tzeentch Marine.
Khorne's the only one you could win.
A Tzeentch
Marine, you might stand a chance.
He wouldn't have even melee fought him. He would just psyker power.
If somehow you're melee fighting him, you might have a chance. Yeah. But honestly, it's like getting to him. It's like there are three. You remember the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, where the guys hop off the ship and that's what it'd be like fighting Tzeentch. You're not going to get to him to kill him. Yeah. That's why they send the Space Wolves in. That's why they specifically send the Space Wolves to fight sorcerers. A, for some reason they're pretty strong against magic. Yeah. And then B, they are bum rushers. They're dumb as hell.
Savages.
Yeah, and their main, so most squads use tactical Marines, right? The name implies why. Tactical. But the main squad of we're getting to that. Okay. So the main squads of most other chapters is what I mean. Use tactical Marines.
Yeah.
Space Wolves said, nah.
Well, what is that? What a tactical Marine is?
Okay, so a tactical Marine would have like grenades, a combat
standard
knife,
bolter,
bolt pistol, maybe bolt pistol. They often don't have a bolt pistol, just a bolter.
And if they're like a sergeant or above, they may have a power weapon.
Maybe, yes. And a plasma weapon is often a sign of office.
Yeah.
So,
that's a standard tactical Marine.
Yeah. and they're
For
good
most-
at being tactical,
For most
blowing up
Space Marine
bunkers.
chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultramarines are the best example.
Yeah.
If you ever look up an Ultramarine squad, that'll be mostly tactical Marines.
Yeah.
And the Tech Marine will probably be with them.
Yeah.
But the Space Wolves,
fuck that.
nah, fuck that shit. Our main squad are the Bloodclaw, the brand spanking new troops, and we put them right in the assault squad. And you're like, wow, they're all gonna get killed. Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, probably only a few of them, honestly, because those guys are raised on a death world that makes Earth look like a paradise planet. Like that place is a shithole, and all they do is fight each other and get killed by humongous bear-sized wolves, and that's just all.
Bigger
That's their
than
life.
that.
Yeah, probably,
Horse-sized
because they're
wolves.
big Space Marines, so
Yeah.
like horse-sized wolves. Yeah, exactly. And so they're like, okay, this sucks. But we have to live here, so we're just gonna lose our minds, drink a lot, and kill everything we see. And they got really
With
good
our
at that.
teeth.
Yeah, with our teeth. Literally, they will bite your jugular out and rip it out of your neck. Like, they're insane.
Yeah.
And so the youngest ones, this is my favorite thing about 40K. You go into one chapter, it has almost nothing to do with another chapter. They're totally different.
Yeah.
The
There's
youngest
a lot
of
of variety.
the Space Wolves are the most dumb, crazy motherfuckers that
because
have
of
ever
the
lived.
enhancement.
Because of their
the
enhancements.
feralness is still new to them. Like they
don't know how to. They're not called long fangs yet because
Yeah.
their fangs are tiny.
Yeah.
They're brand new.
They're for those who don't know, it's like all Space Marines have been genetically enhanced to be bigger, stronger, smarter, faster. Space Wolves did something really weird where they also injected some those horse-sized wolves.
The Canis Helix.
They put some of that genetic material DNA into their enhancements. So not only do they come out bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, they're also kind of wolfy in nature and very feral and primitive and
really strong senses. A big
and
reason they don't wear
pack
helmets
mentality.
is because they want to smell their enemies. So what makes the Space Wolves particularly lethal, in my opinion, isn't the fact that they are really fast, faster than all the other Space Marines. It isn't the fact that it's the pack and it's the senses.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they don't have to see you to know exactly where you are. They can smell your position because they know how to measure how strong something smells and the exact distance that smell would be to be that weak. Yeah. They interpret that in like a split second and they go, I smell that sickly sweet smell of chaos. They're behind that bunker. I smell 3 of them. And they're 100% correct every time.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You don't see it portrayed accurately in a lot of video games, but in like the cover artwork and stuff for like the game boxes and the books, you never see Space Wolves with their helmets on. It's like a standard the helmet that goes with their standard power armor that they wear. It has functions in it that will enhance their senses. So to make them better than a normal humans. Space Wolves forego those, also foregoing the head protection, but they will forego them simply because their own enhanced by the wolf genetics, their
Canis Helix,
the smell and everything is better than what's built into the helmet. So they just say fuck the helmet, and
way better.
What makes them tactical? They're not tactical, but in the sense they are is if one member of a squad, since they have that pack mentality, if one member of a squad detects something is wrong, his body will start giving off pheromones and smells, and his body language will change, and the rest of the squad or whatever kind of unit it is will immediately pick, without him having to say a word or use a hand signal, they will immediately, like, that guy detects something.
Yeah, they'll like
immediately pick up on it. They'll hone in on
You know how people that have dogs, you know how your dog will just bark at the door sometimes? If you have more than one dog, you know for sure that the other dog is just all in. No questions asked. He didn't hear a goddamn thing. He doesn't know what's going on. But his buddy is barking, and he's right there with him. No question. Yeah. That's the Space Wolves all the way. Like, and you know what? They are called the Hounds of the Emperor. People think of them the Chaos Marine. Nobody would dare call them that to their face. Yeah. Nobody would dare call them that to their face.
There's so many cool I think my favorites are going to be Ultramarines are my favorite, and I'll take whatever shit people want to leave in the comments.
I agree with that. You guys can flame me all you want, but you're wrong. They are the best one.
They're not the best at anything, but they're the second best at everything.
That's what makes them the best. And you know, actually, I'll take that back. The thing that makes them the best is that they are the ones that are the most logical and use their genetic enhancements to the most effect.
Yeah.
They don't charge their enemies headlong in suicide charges. They're not about wasting their troops.
Yeah.
They are smart. They're good at their jobs. Yeah. That's why I like them.
You got the Dark Angels I like, Space Wolves I like. I would love the Imperial Fists, and they would probably be my favorite chapter if they weren't yellow. Like, that's just
cheese Marines.
Yeah, mustard Marines. Like, what the fuck? Who did this shit? But anyway,
Heinz Marines.
But anyway, like
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the yellow.
After everything we've just been saying about it for like the past, I don't know, however long, like you can tell like we are fans of it. And there have been times in our lives where we're deep into it, we're like 40K. And then there's other times though where I'm like, this, because of its nature, where like I said, like no overarching story, no real narrative, no real plot, we're not building anything. It's just stories of endless war. And I don't know. I'm not trying to sound like a sissy here, but like after a while, that starts to wear on you up here, especially when it's just war after war after war, bloody, gruesome war, and it's always this like, if it's post Horus Heresy, it's always this like religious zealotous war, like genocide is a big thing in this fandom. Xenophobia, not the xenophobia like real world xenophobia, but like actual like
literal xenos. Literal
everyone
aliens.
is racist. Now, when you're dealing with something like a Tyranid, fair enough. But like the Eldar and the humans, too.
I'll come out with it, man. I'll come out with it. I'm racist against Tyranids.
Yeah.
Full on.
Fuck the,
I
and the
do
Necrons.
not support their culture because honestly, their culture is
live.
consuming everyone else's
Yeah.
culture. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of them.
Yeah. But like
definitely on board with that one.
The intelligent ones, Eldar, humans. I'm not going to include Dark Eldar because they're such a subspecies that I don't.
But you know what's funny? I love this. Sorry, I just have to tell this to people.
Yeah.
The Eldar think they're better than the Dark Eldar, but the Eldar are dying off in droves, and the Dark Eldar are like, fuck it, let's party!
Yeah.
Nobody's fucking with us! They are literally doing 1,000 times better than the regular Eldar because they live in the webway. And they're like, fuck that, we're just gonna live here and be gods.
Yeah.
Like, they figured it out. They went, yeah, we created Slaanesh, but it's already done. Why would we stop being the way we are? We already fucked up.
But they're also like sadists. Like
they're horrible.
They like to jerk off. They like to jerk off while like stabbing people. Like it's
Bro, there's a, you remember the Ultramarines book, the second one?
Yeah.
There are many chapters devoted to the explanation of a Dark Eldar skinning a guy alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's many, many, many chapters where the guy is still alive
and it's like
being skinned.
It's like a therapeutic, almost medicinal practice for them. Like they, I don't know if they psychologically need to do it or if they physically.
I think they do.
But they.
I think they're like
torture and.
You know how
maim.
the Sith Lords gain power from torturing people?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, but I genuinely believe that that's what the Dark Eldar are.
So,
they get power from doing that.
Yeah, so another one that's okay to probably be racist against, but
you can definitely be racist to Dark Eldar.
But in this universe, you got the human Eldar, normal Eldar, and Tau. They're all, I'm going to say advanced. I understand some are more than others, but they're all advanced spacefaring species, and they are all super, just on the basis of they're a different species than me, they are all like, we must eradicate them. That's not a good moral for people to, you know what I mean? Like,
especially because if you're trying to conquer a universe, I would argue that if you can't conquer it all in one fell swoop, a good plan of action is to make sure that your neighbors are people who you can live with for a while, instead of trying to eradicate everyone and failing and creating some pretty serious enemies, like Chaos Marines, for instance. Maybe if the Emperor hadn't been such a dumb shit, they wouldn't exist. But they do. Oh, and I want to say this one because I love it. The Emperor, for those who don't understand, why is he so powerful? Why is he so revered? He was just a guy at first on Earth. Well, this is the story. He was a guy, kind of. He was like a superhuman, but not quite the degree that he is now. But he was special. Think like Superman with half the powers, you know? And he convinced 8, I think, shaman or 20, just some shamans, to put all of their power in him. Okay, so that he could walk into the warp. That was the whole purpose, was to pull his spirit out of his body and push it through the immaterium so that he could go into the warp. It killed them all. Killed every single one of them.
Yeah.
Killed them all. And so he got in. And he met with all 4 of the Chaos Gods. And he made a deal with them. Well, 3, actually. I don't think Slaanesh... Slaanesh didn't exist. It was 3.
Yeah.
Or did Slaanesh exist?
If there's human psychers, then Slaanesh existed. Because it was the birth of Slaanesh and the tear that exposed warp energies to the human race. Yeah, and created psychers.
Okay.
Yeah,
so then, yes, he met with all 4. And they made a deal with him that they would instill in him a fraction of their power, which would actually make him stronger than all of them. Yeah, and well, knowledge probably all came from Zinch, right?
Yeah.
So he got a fraction of all of their powers, which made him way stronger than any one of them, or all four of them. But the idea was he was their servant, and he was going to go there and spread the message of chaos. And as soon as they gave him the power, he just ripped a hole in the Immaterium, flipped him the bird, walked through it, and they were like, "What just happened?" And the Emperor just went on the Great Crusade, conquering the galaxy.
Yeah.
And they were sitting in the warp like, did we just get fucked over by some guy? He was just laughing his ass off in his gold-plated ship as he flew off into space to kill some bitches. And the thing about the Emperor, right, is that it's not talk when it says that if the Emperor faced any one of or all four of the Chaos Gods, that it wouldn't even be a fight. He would just trounce them all. That's true. He would just vaporize them. It's just that he didn't need to. It would be a humongous waste of his time to go into the warp, spend 1,000 years there killing the Chaos Gods.
Also, if you can close up that the rift between real space and the warp, the Immaterium, if you can close that up, the warp is completely separate. You know what I mean?
Right. So and his plan was
to close it up,
to convince people that the Chaos Gods didn't exist, which would greatly weaken them.
Yeah.
Like make them into nothing. And then they would be trapped in a prison of the Immaterium forever. Yeah. Because if nobody believes in them and they have no way to contact you, then they don't exist for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. And
therefore will cease to exist. That was his plan.
I always saw it as a metaphor. It was like he was going to rid humanity of the darkest parts of it, of the human psyche. Like he was going to correct human nature. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing that's ironic
chaos
about that,
is all a metaphor for like the bad elements of human nature. Yeah.
Yeah. But the irony of that is that the Emperor actually embodies most of those horrible traits because he got his powers from the Chaos Gods.
Yeah.
He embodies most of those traits. He just acts like they don't apply to him. Like he's the one who invented the concept of exterminatus. It wasn't later. He invented. He was the one that was like, if we can't conquer a planet or it's sufficiently gone, destroy the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's him. That's Chaos God mentality 101. He's pure and simple a Chaos God. He
good metaphor
is the one of order.
In a good metaphor would be like in Lord of the Rings when Boromir nominates using the ring against Sauron, they're all like, it won't work that way. Basically what we're dealing with in 40K is the Emperor did just that, except it works.
It totally worked.
He's he's like, hey, the power that the Chaos Gods are using to fuck us up, maybe if we used it against him, it would work. And it
totally did. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's like he picked up Sauron's ring, put it on, and everybody else turned invisible. But he grew 9 feet, a sword materialized out of the air, armor just coalesced around him, and an aura of light just suffused him. Yeah. And he was just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. This seems to be working just fine. Yeah, like exactly that. He was like, I'm gonna go kill that guy. I don't think he can stop me now.
I got his ring. I'm gonna go fuck him up. Like, yeah.
I'm gonna go fuck him up. He's like, is that my ring? He's like, yeah, it's my ring. That's what you just said, right? Slice. Like that would be it. So the Chaos Gods, their arrogance gave birth to the Emperor, which created all this nonsense that happened after the fact. It's kind of ironic that the Emperor is the sole reason the chaos is such a problem right now. If he hadn't done that, if he just accepted being a normal sort of superhuman.
Let's say the Eldar. I'm going to say the Eldar, but
we can say that the Eldar are the reason that humans have psychic powers. Yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. Like, no force in the no faction, no race, no species in the physical universe, the material universe, the normal one. None of them knew about warp, Immaterium, chaos until the birth of Slaanesh. Like the other three were there, chilling in the warp, but no one knew that they existed. They didn't have any contact with the material. It wasn't until the birth of the new one that kind of ripped a tear in the fabric of reality and allowed their energies, their powers, their forces to kind of affect real space. And that's when this all started. So once again, fuck the Eldar. Like, you know.
Yeah, fucking Eldar, man. They just can't. All they had to do was keep it in their pants and be the best universe they could be, or be the best species they could be. And they just said, fuck that. We're going to torture everyone to death.
Party hard.
And we're going to love it. We're going to party all the time.
Every drug imaginable. Fuck everything.
We're going to use our psychic powers with abandon.
Fuck everything I can. Like,
yeah. You see that rock over there? I'm going to fuck it to death. It's a rock. I'm going to fuck it to death. Like, that was the Eldar mentality.
Yeah.
They were nuts.
Yeah.
And then they did. They fucked the universe to death. Like, they managed it.
Imagine, like let me put it this way. Jordan Belfort, Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Wolf of Wall Street, that dude is a worshiper of Slaanesh. That dude is
Yeah.
like what the Eldar were up to. Just massive amounts of drugs, cocaine, partying, fucking, like, yeah, like that's what the Eldar were up to. Because their society was up there, man. Like, they were fucking killed. They were ruling the galaxy. They were so high. They were just like, dude, we got this, you know? Like, then what could go wrong?
Well,
yeah.
You remember that episode of South Park where Mr. Garrison runs for president? And his whole motto, his whole platform for running for president is fuck them all to death.
Yeah.
That is the Eldar platform. Every time they came to a planet, they landed on the planet and a podium extended. And they were like, hello, everybody on this planet. We are here for one thing and one thing only. We are here to fuck you all to death.
Real
and they're like, did he just say?
One difference. Hello, planet. Hold on. Oh, all right. We're here to fuck you all to death. Oh. Yeah, like, yeah.
Like, just stabs the guy next to him 6 times. Yeah. It's like, whoa, let's go.
Yeah.
They were out of their minds.
Fucking
I can't, honestly, can you imagine how much fun they had before everything just, like, they didn't have any rules. They couldn't die. Like, if they died, this is why there's one glaring thing I forgot to mention that's kind of important. The Eldar couldn't die, okay? This is a vital thing.
They're the space
They couldn't
elves.
die because, well, it was really specific. They couldn't die because their spirits could pass between the immaterium and the real space, like, no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, fine. They would go into the immaterium for a little while and be in like a dormant state, and then they would just come back. They would come back fully fine, the same person.
Oh, so they knew about the warp. They knew about the immaterium. Yeah. They just never thought that, like, they could.
They had gods in the immaterium.
They never thought that what they were doing would birth a new one. And rip it open.
Well, they thought that their gods were protecting them.
Oh, shit.
And they thought that their gods were strong, and they weren't. Well, they were. It's just that so think about it. They created those gods.
Yeah.
So they already knew that they could create gods.
Oh, shit.
So that was an established concept. They did. I don't know that they actually knew that they created them, but suffice it to say, they knew that gods existed in the warp that were specifically protecting the Eldar.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take a super genius 1,000 years to figure out that, hey, we probably made those. Like, think about it. We're psychic. We go in the warp all the time. We left a signature in the warp that created a god eventually.
The warp is the manifestation of, like, consciousness and, like, your imagination.
And so enough people are thinking these thoughts, like, I'm sad at the death of my friend. And so Enid was born and was like, no one dies. Like, fuck that. And then they had Cain, who is their avatar of vengeance, and he's in, like, war and death and all that stuff. And he's in the warp too. Actually, Cain is a good example of a god you don't want to fuck with either. Chaos gods know better than to go after Cain. Even Korn going after Cain would be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to end up my way. Cain's like, it won't. Cain's just sitting there on a sword in the ground like, it won't go your way, Korn. And Korn's like, yeah, I didn't think so. And he's not going to do it. Cain's like, I'm not going to fight you either, but you know how this would go. Like, so, yeah, Cain's a cool guy. He's not. He's a terrible, terrible person, but he's a really good war god.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Eldar knew what happened when they died. And so they lost the sense that humans have of this life is important and therefore we must live it to the full. But at the same time, everybody else's life around us is also finite. And so we want to be very careful about how we approach situations, because if you end their life, it's just over. That was not the case for the Eldar. If you got in a fight with a guy and, like, you just really didn't like him, you could stab him through the heart and he'd be like, fuck you, that sucks. Now I'm going to be disincorporated from my body for however long until I come back. That would be it. He wouldn't be, like, mad that he's dying. He'd be like, oh, that sucks. Yeah. I'm not even going to have these clothes anymore. Like, this really fucking blows.
Yeah.
A minor inconvenience. They would go into the warp, come back in the soul stones, I think, the soul forges, and they'd just be fine. And so they got really used to being virtually immortal. And they got really into debauchery, because if you can't die, then what's
what are you afraid
pain
of?
and what are all these things? Yeah, like, there's nothing.
What's holding you back?
Their physiology must have been rewritten in this period, because it's like, think about it. As humans, if you live on a planet where every single day sharp rocks fly through the air and cut your skin, I guarantee you in 1,000 years humans would have fucking hard-ass skin that those rocks are just bouncing off of, because we can't live on this planet and be getting sliced up every day. That's not going to work. So it would change. Yeah. So the Eldar, being immune to all these things, their physiology just got to be all fucked up.
Yeah.
And as they changed, the way they thought changed. And so the gods that their thoughts were keeping strong became desperately weak. They were like, tiny little factions that kind of kept to the old gods' ways, but the vast majority had like completely forsaken the gods. So when their thoughts changed and they weren't worshiping their gods anymore, they created a fucking brand new one. And he was strong. Holy shit, dude. His birth killed like all the gods except Cain and Need. Like killed them, just straight up killed them.
And killed most Eldar.
Killed most
There's
Eldar
very few
outright.
of them left, like comparatively to how they were.
Killed them and then ate their souls.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, so closing thoughts on Darktide and just 40K in general. I've had a love-hate relationship with 40K for a really long time. I want to love it. I want to really love it. I just two things I need is I need a real narrative. I need it to be going somewhere, and then I also need a real like protagonist. Doesn't have to be a single person, but like at least a protagonist faction that are like you're meant to root for. I need those two things. Like just endless stories of just violent, gruesome war for the sake of endless stories of violent, gruesome war. It gets old after a while, and it's not good for you
really
mentally. Like
no.
So that's
I had to take a break from 40K as well.
Yeah.
Similar reasons.
So that's my take on 40K. But with how deep we've gotten into it in the past and how much we've loved it when we got to the past, I'm going to go ahead and quote Lehman Russ here and say, "For sure I will return for the end time." You know?
Oh, yeah.
If they ever do decide to ramp this up and get like start taking the narrative seriously and building it towards some kind of like conclusion, I will come back wholeheartedly to see how this all turns out in the end. But until then, or at least until I can tell it's going that way, I'm tiptoeing through 40K. I'll pick up little bits of information here and there, but I will never get back into it full swing until those two things I outlined become the case. But then I will return for the end time.
Yes. I think I fully agree with that. I got really out of 40K for the past couple years, I would say. I have a very loose affiliation with it. Sometimes I'll reread old like Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, but like the fandom Wikipedia entries. And, just to like recap stuff I don't know, like reread about Caiaphas or orcs or stuff like that. But I don't really read the main story because I'm in the same boat. I'm sick of getting a segment. Like it's like you have a candy bar and whoever designed this candy bar, the first half of it is just chocolate, which is fine. Chocolate's good. It's okay. But the last quarter of it has got like caramel and like peanuts and like like good nougat shit. And all the good shit. But it's that last bit, and you're just like, I'm just gonna eat this chocolate bar until I get to the good bit because it'll be worth it. And then you're just like, why am I eating this? Like I'm just gonna set it down.
I'm never getting to it.
And I'm never getting to that part because I just don't want to keep slogging through the rest.
Yeah.
So once they decide how they want to wrap this stuff up, I honestly am not going to complain at any choice they make because there's so much going on that like there are 50 endings right now that are fine. Any one of them. Imperium gets destroyed, whatever. Chaos wins, whatever. Chaos loses, whatever. Tyranids win, who gives a shit? I don't care if the orcs are the end-all victor. Just as soon as there's an end times answer to how all this shit wraps up.
A narrative conclusion.
Yes, because I'm sick of the threats of like the Tyranids out in space. I get it. They're out there. But they're not doing anything. So what do I give a shit? And like, okay, the Necrons are waking up, but they're not conquering anyone. They're just conquering the tomb world they wake up on. Yeah. Whatever. Like, let me know when Terra turns on the view scope and sees 50 black pyramids marching towards their planet. That's when I'll be bad. Or like when the Tyranid swarms attack Ultramar and try to like consume the whole thing.
Or when Guilliman finally squares up with Abaddon, because we know that's coming.
Yes. And honestly, that's going to be a sick fight because Abaddon is
he's a normal human marine, strong. But he's got all the chaos powers.
He has the mark of chaos.
Yeah.
He's I'm pretty sure he's the only one who has personally been marked by all four of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
and he's got
many people are branded, but yeah, he has Dreknayan.
Yeah.
Dreknayan the Demon Blade, which isn't even a sword. It's a literal coalescing soul of a demon that transforms into whatever your brain wants it to be. So when he pulled it out of the Immaterium, it was a sword. A sword that makes power swords look like shit. Yeah. Can split through walls. The whole purpose of it, by the way, is that what it slices, it both slices you here and in the Immaterium. So it slices you through your soul.
It kills you and the idea of you.
Yeah, you are erased.
Yeah.
And like potentially even the greater demon on the inside of the sword eats you. That's another possibility, that it eats your soul. Totally could do that. Because it's a greater demon bound in a sword.
It's gonna be a good fight when they
It'll
finally get to it.
He better pick up the Emperor's flaming sword to fight him. That's all I gotta say.
He has
like
it.
he better
He's
use that. I know, but like he better he better pull off the guns, pull that flaming sword out, and be like, "We're settling this now. Like I want a sword fight to the death. Like let's go. Whoever wins, I'll be happy with it.
Yeah,
that's fine."
All right, man. Well, I think we did a thorough job of discussing 40K and what we think about it, and Darktide overall. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna play it because, like I said, I'm tired of books. I want something other than books, and this game looks great. So
for 40K, yeah,
really looking forward to it. All right, man. Well, it's been fun as always.
Yes, always fun to talk about 40K.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
All right, later.